Welcome to com26v.com Conference of the Movement's 26th Virtual. Today we are celebrating, well, a whole month we're celebrating, Native American Heritage Month of November. And today we're at the One Nation Gathering. That's our theme for today. We're trying to bring 1,000 Indigenous nations together to create a new federation of nations like the United Nations to unify all the tribes worldwide. So today we have a special guest with us. It's Myron Dewey from Digital Smoke Signals. He's a water protector, activist, journalist, media personality, and a professor. That's what we recently found out. So, and also we have Sherry Lewis, one of the three Peacemakers. And we usually want to have Mesfin Zaid here, but we're honoring him and sending his condolences to Mesfin Zaid because his brother we just found out news that he passed away today, and we give a prayers to him, and Myron will lead us in prayer. Then he'll introduce himself. Myron, take it away.
How in the maga na inania Myron Dewey na agataka na ahoba shinami na pija shinami na nishtahai, our brother na pija na nishtahai nama shinami, sending good thoughts and blessings his way, and his Namudawe, his family, relatives, and from our home to his, and hukwapa yadawat, on sending those blessings on the wind their way. Na pija biwa. Hope.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if Myron, sorry, David.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention, I think that you had mentioned for Myron to introduce himself, and I just wanted to say that I am so happy to have you here with us today. Your work has just been so meaningful and has touched so many people's lives, including my own. And your heart for union and unity and your wisdom behind that. So just please introduce yourself, Myron, and please share some of the things that in your viewpoints and some of the things that you feel are important to share today in these regards.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me here. I did introduce myself in my language when I opened up.
Oh, yeah.
Strong thinker is my name, and always thinking. And Myron Dewey is my English name. I'm Agaitaka, trout eaters, and Namanawa. I'm Paiute and Shoshone from the Shoshone Nation, Tamok Shoshone. I've been doing a lot of different work throughout the years to try to bring the tools that I was using in healing to the work that I was working with the youth, my community, and the challenges that I was seeing around us. And there's a lot of highs and lows, ups and downs, failures after failure, and just re-strategizing, and indigenizing the way we use things, coming up with digital protocols like at Standing Rock, when and when not to film, and just seeing what works and applies. All of this was prior to Standing Rock, and working in communities, for the last 20 years, to have it built up to a place where all of that gets tested, and taking the tools that I learned, from my home, from my own community, from the legal system here, where a lot of our young men go to get incarcerated. A lot of the young people get into juvenile detention centers. Nevada, many people don't know, is the heart of the military-industrial complex. My tribe sits with the Air Force and the Marines and the Top Gun training facilities on one side, where they bomb on our sacred sites, and on the right side, it is militia mercenary training ground, and also used to be one of the largest munition bunkers on the planet, which today, I kind of tease my family and tribal members. We're called Walmart to cut us because we no longer eat trout in our lake. Our lake has no more trout left. We've witnessed 100% of our food source gone in our lifetime. And like the buffalo almost got extinct, our fish did get extinct, the trout. We have one more lake left, and that's Pyramid Lake with our fish. So this work has been based on the historical trauma, loss of land, loss of language, forced loss of dignity, indoctrination, Western intellectual manipulation, the turn of the century with the first documented in our traditional stories with environmental change, to the loss of our traditional harvesting areas for mining, clear cutting, 550 cords of wood a day. And now saying, oh, well, we don't know where the fires are coming. Well, we can tell you. You've changed the natural law. There's no more trees in those areas for miles that there used to be. And a great area to look is Reno. Reno, Nevada is always burning. To re-educate America that those roads they drive on are our paths that we used to walk on. The example in Reno, it used to be a wetlands. It's no longer a wetlands. The water has been diverted to one water source, and the other ones are hidden underground in Reno. They're hidden with ditches and these things, just to re-educate the community around us, but also our own people. We get the angry Indian, because I was there. I remember not being able to articulate my anger when someone say, oh, you always lost the battle, and not being able to articulate it. Now it's like there is no honor in you saying that through genocide, through murder, intellectual manipulation, weaponizing, smallpox, biological warfare, theft. There is no honor in those things. And now I can articulate that anger. But our young people, though, grow up with that trauma. And that trauma goes deep. It goes from being in school and watching a mountain man tell you how you people lived. It really searches your identity like, whoa, what do you mean? Like, I'm here. How come we don't know those things? And find out, it was illegal for us to sing, to speak our language, and just continue these intellectual manipulation that went through the boarding school. So all of that built in to Standing Rock, and the lateral violence and bullying and things that happen in our tribal governments that I see as well, and the bureaucracy that goes through it. That was also some of the tools that I experienced as a young entrepreneur. And Digital Smoke Signals made a lot of transformations. It started out as an entrepreneur, sole proprietor. It started out trying to make it a bigger, model for what we could do in Indian country. And when I seen it at Standing Rock, I seen that it had to be gifted. All of that work needed to be gifted. All of that media needed to be gifted. Everything needed to be gifted, because if we control the media, we control the narrative. And no longer is Western media going to control our narrative. So fast forward to Standing Rock, when I was standing above the camp up on Facebook Hill, before the media tent was up and going, I thought to myself, wow, I don't have to travel anywhere in Indian country. All of our people are here. And so I called up a tribe and I asked them to send the iPads that we had purchased for them. They purchased for their youth, and their youth were already there that I trained. And I said, we're going to go around and do live stream training. And I'm going to have to create the narrative here. I'm going to have to, a lot of our people, you didn't have to, they were already on Facebook, but it was following through a digital protocol. How to introduce yourself, really how to be an ambassador for your community. Really to share what was the loss of identity, because people had their insecurities. I don't speak my language, Myron, they would say, or I was relocated in the city, or some people would say, I don't even know what tribe I am. I just know I'm Indigenous. I was in a foster care. And to explain, I told them, explain your truth. Share that. And some people would share how, they're like, I did what you shared. I did what you said, Myron. I went and shared it. Then I got attacked. And it was our own people. We became the agitator, the infiltrators, the instigators. We were causing the trauma on our own people that I saw with the lateral violence And the bullying, the traits we left with, they were coming back into camp. But for August, September, and I think part of October, it was one of the most powerful times I've seen in global synchronicity of energy. And I joke about it, in live feeds. I would just posted one today about how, I could spot an infiltrator, and whether it would be FBI or whether it be DAPL, or somebody coming in as from Bismarck that was just trying to be an agitator, their energy was not in sync. They were not on the same page as all of us. And you can see it so clear there. I mean, I wish that we were still in those times. And it's really like getting prepared for ceremony. We're all on that same page. We're all in sync. We follow the protocols, and you can see when somebody doesn't know what to do, doesn't know what side of the fire to walk on, doesn't know to not step on certain things. That's how you can tell. And so the infiltrator, sometimes with some of our people who those teachings were taken from, and they were regaining that strength and those teachings there. And it was coming not from just one tribe. It was coming from tribes all across the United States, all 4 directions, where the wind was blowing them in, sending healers, people with medicine, people with teachings, beautiful teaching for men and women, for young people, people that dealt with allies, people that dealt with the ego. The ego was huge. So many wellness people came. I just sometimes wish I could always go back to those times and just sit with some of those people. But my role there I felt was to film in a visual legal narrative, because I did not want to see us being political prisoners. And that was my goal. And sometimes people distracted me. I got distracted myself, and I just had to pray about, like, get back on track. Why am I here? Why am I here? Make sure you're here. Check your ego. I made mistakes and definitely got checked on those mistakes, learned from those mistakes, and continued to just keep walking forward no matter what, no matter how hard it got. I almost felt like this one young person, and it was consistent. You have no choice. You need to keep going forward. And so I had a lot of help. I did not do it alone. The teachings did not come to me alone. And those who believed in me came and sat with me, and I allowed myself to listen to them, because I knew it was that important. We were in a ceremony, as well as the keyboard warriors. They were very instrumental in this as well. Our allies that were outside that didn't get to make it could feel that synchronicity and those blessings. So it was a roller coaster. Sometimes those barriers became speed bumps, and I just, gradually went over the speed bump and kept going. And so much to learn still from those times.
Wow, that was thank you for sharing, and that you really hit on a lot of points there, and you framed it very well, where I think people can really understand. They have a visual of how you shared that, and I thank you so much for that, Myron. And that was and still is a calling, getting those truths out, and that's what I see you continuing to do, and be a part of that walk. And now, David, I know that you you were talking to Myron about the blueprint. Did you want to touch on that with what some of your questions were for Myron about that?
Yes, so often we just said we had a small private conversation before this, and we say, how do we move forward when us Indigenous nations have been traumatized with genocide, boarding schools, residential schools, stolen land, being political prisoners. And it still continues to this day, including biological warfare, starting with smallpox, now with radiation poisoning, uranium poisoning, arsenic poisoning in the waters. How do we unify, because Indigenous peoples have been putting up so many fires in their own communities, in their own families and lives already. And we were talking about the trauma. We often, let's say, example, the people coming back from the residential school, there's a lot of people who came back from residential or boarding school, and they become the perpetrators of the same things that those people who they were these people are victims, but the basically perpetrators hurt them, and they are acting out some of the times the same things the perpetrators do. So how do we move forward and unify all of them while this is all is going on? Myron, what is your point of view?
Well, you touched on some really key points, and I think, just in my own experience, when I became a historical trauma trainer, I didn't have the tools, and an elder saw those tools in me and provided me with several of the paths that I needed to become a historical trauma trainer. To be able to articulate that on another side, where you can visually see that person is hurt, I have compassion for people no matter what they say or do to me, because I understand what they've been through. I understand because I lived it. I grew up in an alcoholic family. I grew up watching my mom abused. I grew up watching family around me be abused, and not having those tools and learning what it means, and having compassion for actually understanding why they were doing what they were doing. And veterans, my uncles were veterans, and sharing how they died alcoholics. They shared their story, when we were young, while they cried, while they were drunk. And I've heard other veterans share those stories, the same stories. Many people don't realize what the damage has done, from the boarding school era. It made us amazing soldiers, because that was the discipline in those boarding schools, was militarization. Mm-hmm. It made us follow instructions, because we were abused sexually, physically, and mentally if we did not follow those instructions. We became amazing listeners. And those young men that went into war, some of them at the turn of the century weren't even citizens. And they didn't go to fight for the United States. They went to go fight for their people. And what they encountered in just the veteran state, many veterans shared with me, is like when they were holding those flamethrowers, they realized that the rice baskets they were burning were the same as back home that the grandmother made. And the harvesting of rice and the different types of tools that they used. Those are stories that were shared with me from veterans, and some of them that had gifted me, their scarves from Iraq, and said, "This is what a warrior is. What you guys are doing is what we would have hoped we could have done as warriors. That's what we see as a warrior, protecting Mother Earth." And I got asked that question quite a bit, is like, why didn't you go into the military? And I almost did. I was going to the Marines. My uncle's best friend was a recruiter, and my uncle's brother took me, and he asked me to fight for Mother Earth first. He says, "I want you to go firefight. I want you to learn how to fight for Mother Earth. And then if you don't feel it's for you, then you can go, and I'll drive you myself to the recruiter." He goes, "But you're gonna be good whatever way you go." And he goes, "But learn to fight for Mother Earth first." And having role models like that is what made me believe that it is possible. And the impossible became possible at Standing Rock when all of the people came. And those of us that already had a social media presence before were able to articulate those things through Indigenous eyes by crowdsourcing solutions. It's not the answer, but it definitely was a solution at that time. And I just kept looking back in history and kept thinking, okay, what do I need to focus on? Media was weaponized with the dime nickel. Media was weaponized with the wax cylinder. Media was weaponized by Curtis Edwards in misinterpreting Indigenous people in his photographs. Media was misinterpreted through Hollywood, stereotyping Indigenous people. I just had to keep thinking, how do I educate? How do I keep moving forward? I think I can articulate propaganda in even my tribe with the ghost dance, and how Western media has misinterpreted where our own people believe it. To me, the prayer is what you got to be a part of. And if you know those protocols, you can understand how the prayer went and who was involved. And also, you know that gathering wood is part of the prayer, building fire, tending fire, cooking food. It's just not the main thing. It's a part of the whole thing. And I sat many times thinking about that out there is how do I explain that, and also explain my vision. I envisioned this. I'm not saying I had visions. I just envisioned all of our live feeds up on a wall, and they're watching us, because that's how the military is. They're watching us like NASA, all these different, monitors and screens, and everyone's assigned to me. They're assigned to this guy. They're assigned to guys, Akichitas that are there. They're assigned to security. They're assigned to all these people. To them, those who are educating are dangerous, and they're going to target you. And I knew that would happen, and I was prepared. And when they targeted me, I was 60 miles from camp documenting the head of the Black Snake. And I was documenting them working within the buffer zone they weren't supposed to work, assigned by the President of the United States. They violated that agreement. But I also documented the first time that 17 or 18 officers took all their badges off, their identification off of them to identify who they were. They took their rings off. And I tried to give descriptions of that because in the back of my mind, I thought, this is it. And I wanted to get a little rezzed out. I was like, I'm going to have to take down one of these guys, they're going to kill me. And I thought about it. I thought about it for a moment. And then I thought, that one live feed came on, that one bar kicked in. And I said, I'm just going to share my story. Then this is my role. I'm a witness here. I'm just going to have to share my story, and I have to stay in prayer. It's not about me. So I need to put down the ego, even in this scenario, and describe who I'm seeing, how I'm seeing it, and educate them along the way, and also list the violations that were happening in real time. I think just setting a pattern of how do we role model those teachings to our people? How do we role model when we're attacked? How do we role model those teachings when we're being successful? How do we role model those teachings when we're gifting to other people? How do we role model those teachings when we're in prayer and solidarity and support? And how do we include everybody in that prayer as well, where we're equally a part of it, and suppressing the ego at that same time and sharing those teachings? Because I think I've seen old people at camp, but I also seen elders, and the elders were the ones that were practicing those teachings. And out of all the elders that I was, seeing and trying to talk to, I didn't get that feeling from them that they were that I could take with me. So I took what I needed and I left the rest, and I moved on, because I got challenged many times along the way. And it's a new road. It was definitely a new road, but we all knew this was going to happen. We talked about it every time we went to the Gathering of Nations in Albuquerque, New Mexico. What if we can gather like this and protect our land? We always talked about it. Now it came to be. And I shared with the brother that works for the tribe. He's very hurt because he worked in the building, and he said that he just heard all the bad stuff. So that's what he was focused on, because that's what he had to deal with. And we went to Haskell together, and I told him, I says, your tribe got unlimited money into the millions coming your way. You had solidarity, you had support, you had allies willing to die on the front line, tribal members willing to die on the front line, traditional medicines, coming your way, teachers coming your way, educators coming your way. I don't even know how many lawyers volunteered. I says, balance that anger out. Balance it, because you're imbalanced right now. Balance what you didn't see and balance what you did see, what you didn't like and what you're going to need to look at. Because I sat with elders who just talked really negative about the camp. And they started with compost toilets. They didn't believe anybody would sit and man those toilets, which were two guys in there all the time playing chess or cards, you know. And I shared their story. You know, I shared, there's people down there, and he goes, wow, really? And I go, yeah. He goes, well, I hear they're just doing drugs. And I'm like, they kick them out of camp. I hear they're just beating people up. I says, they'll walk them out of camp. And he goes, wow, we don't even have that in our own tribe. You know, and he was getting misinformation. So it was like, I would spend the time to articulate it in a way where I could give them a reference point to go visit. And that's what I was hoping, is that I can give justice there and articulate the truth by visually articulating it, and then take him there to visually see it. I shared with them there was 8 kitchens. Said there's no homelessness, there's no hunger, there's sweat almost every hour, ceremony. And he apologized for what he said. He goes, you know, I was wrong. He goes, we don't have that in our own camp. And I says, and they're there to protect your guys' water. And so our own insecurities came into play there. And not everyone was a part of the prayer. And that's also, not everyone was in solidarity. And sometimes it was our own people that attacked our own people. And I really hurt when I seen that happen, because we were all fighting for the same thing. And I did what I could to role model my teachings, you know, and if I was wrong, I tried to do the best I could to correct it or apologize and move forward. So I can tell you guys, you know, to be attacked by your own people it hurts. To be attacked by strangers and trolls really didn't hurt. I know who they were. It's your own people. And I got attacked by family, which even, you know, hurts, because if they don't communicate with you, you don't know how to break through to them. I got attacked by tribal members who said, you know, why are you helping them? You know, other tribes saying the same thing. And I'm like, we're all in this together. What happens to one tribe happens to all of us. And so I had personal reasons why I went there, working with the youth, you know, way back in the day, ceremony, Sundance. And I love to pray with our people, and I love to pray the way they pray. And if they go to church, I'll sit in church. I listen to the teaching, not the preaching. Or I'm not Christian, Catholic, or any of those things. I have the same trauma from indoctrination as many of our elders do. So it's just part of the healing process. So the educating came through, and I'm into a place now where I want to go into enlightening and empowering, so we can start the healing process. And just role model that. I don't have the answers. I can tell you that. I'm a lot of times, you know, I struggle because, you know, it feels like I go backwards with some of my relatives. I see them come forward and be vulnerable, and then get hardened up and close out. I watch people attack each other. My tribe doesn't have that shaming culture like I've seen out in Standing Rock. So it's a little bit different when I experience that in a crowd mob mentality. And we see that now on social media as a social crowd mob mentality of people who don't even know that person. And media has been weaponized. Social media has been weaponized. And right now, all across Turtle Island, around the planet, Indigenous people are trending on all these social media platforms. They're getting attacked, and they're educating. And so it's not the answer right now, but it is a solution to educating the world about who we are. And we need to really focus on that, because this whole month is Indigenous Peoples Month, but it's really about educating on all platforms, on all sides of the border, on why we're protecting and why we're moving forward together. So it's going to take us all. But I can tell you, in my own experience, not everyone around the sacred fire was thinking about the sacred fire. And some of them saw it as a bonfire. And some of them didn't think about why putting too much wood on there was taken away from the next fire over, the elders. And so there was a lot of teachings that were coming from that. Not everybody was a part of the prayer, you know, in solidarity and unity because of the ego. And I think those parts are hard because there are our own people still hurting. And also, you know, bad people can do good things too. I also seen that. So we have to be mindful. I'm worried we're in a space now where globalization is hit. Standing Rock is an example of globalization, not colonization, globalization. Everyone came from all four directions, from their own fight, protecting their own land, their own solidarity and support. And we all got to see who was in the face of the terror of our ancestors, militia, Pinkertons, that would be Sheriff's Department Association, and mercenaries. That we have to worry about, because they don't see us as water protectors. They see us trespassing on our own land, taking their resources and getting in the way of profit over people. And so it's important that we just stay on the same page and support each other, check the ego, and keep moving forward. But we do need people to articulate. We need our speakers up there to articulate. We need to recognize that our most vulnerable also get attacked. Those who do drugs and drink or gossip, they are prime for being attacked when you're in a movement, because you can send something their way and it distracts them. Along with the ego, you can send media their way. And many people don't know how to deal with the media. So that's my goal, is to educate and continue this work in a different way, using media to empower people to share their story. So that's the unity part, is really training our own people to be trained the trainers, to get out there and give them all the tools as an ambassador, historical trauma trainer, ceremony. Why are you here? Why are you protecting the water? As digital storytellers. And if you are not journalists in Western eyes, you are a protester. And if you get out of that, if you get called an activist, you're going back to the civil rights time, where AIM and the civil rights movement was going on. They were being called activists by the FBI. And so these terminologies that I learned along the way are tactical to bring you in. They still didn't find their Indian. As you guys watched through the movement, they were trying to arrest who they thought were leaders. And so I want to share with our young people, if we don't understand this intellectual manipulation, they change the rules because they're doing it. And it's no longer free and prior consent. It's when you walk through the door is when you gave consent now. How do I know that? Because that's what the military told my tribe, told us earlier in January. You gave consent when you walked through the door, Myron. That's what he told me. And we're the ones playing by the rules still. And they're the ones changing the natural law. And we're seeing it happen in front of us. So how do we protect the unborn? Well, we have to really start strategizing and working on food sovereignty, healthy water, and I think a safe place where we can go to learn those ways in a good way and in a healthy way, but also we step into one world and protecting the other.
I love that, Myron. You know, you're so right on, and the re-education and the message that's coming out is so important, and everything that you just even concluded in, to saying, to have, you know, a place to bring those teachings, to bring our elders and our youth, to have those, the food sovereignty, you know, bringing that back. Because actually I was speaking with one of our Nakota relatives recently, and at the school that she teaches in, I think there's like less than 150 kids in the school, but you have 68 that are homeless, right? And then you have the garden, but who's picking the garden, right? And that comes back to that healing within our own communities, like you were saying, and from the trauma and getting off the militarized healthcare, and our our moms and our grandmas, you know, having our young adults, or even a lot of the women my age that are struggling with alcoholism and, you know, drug abuse and in that way. But through that healing and getting back to the ways of even the nurturing that isn't so much already a part of who we are, but that has just been opposed and tried to be stripped through a lot of the historical trauma that our people have gone through. So it is so true, you know, and getting back to nursing and, you know, with and our ways without some of these other things that have just been blocks and overcoming that. So I think so much of what you're saying, getting the message out through re-education, even through having the right type of media stream that you have, and then also having these areas set up for healing. And that's where my heart is at, was we're bringing all of our nations together, is starting those centers where we can have healing centers, wellness centers, economic resource through things that are aligned with our cultures and our heart and our mind. That, you know, because a lot, you know, in certain areas, and every area is different, of course, but there's certain casinos in different areas, and, you know, that's been a way for economic resource, but actually really takes away from our people in another way, having all of the casinos, right, in different ways. So I think having that healing, having that re-education, having that role model lead how you spoke is just so right on, and leading into having establishments that protect our medicines, that where our people can come together for that true healing is vital. So I that's something that, you know, I want to walk in with, helping to cultivate that, you know, bringing our buffalo back and onto the properties, and the fish, you know, things like that too, through these areas, and bringing it back to the early days of our community and dealing with our healing. So thank you. You just and inspire. So thank you so much for your words of wisdom.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was also thinking, Myron, when you were talking about the media, because, you know, basically for myself, when I was telling them in 2010, I was working with, I call Native Americans at that time, or First Nations. I sent my message back to China and Singapore, actually. I said I was, you know, my relative, and they started crying, you know, because they said that I didn't know that they were alive. They
Yes.
started crying, and they said, I didn't know they were alive. I thought the Europeans exterminated all of them, and they were so happy and joyful and cheering, is because there's very little media coverage outside, even out in North America, there's very few, but in Asia or Africa, from the indigenous in North America, they do not hear zero, almost like zero coverage of them out there. So the media is very important, that we actually control the narrative of the media, because those, you know, us, like Asians ourselves, like I'm from the Hakka tribe, as an Asian tribe, we see other indigenous people as brothers and sisters, the same. We have the same struggle and everything. So that's why the funny part about this thing is that, you know, because some indigenous people went back to our countries like Singapore, China, like that, you know, to, you know, as a business or to develop like that, you know, they were treated like nations, as nations. They had the banquet dinners for all of them, like the huge, like 1,000 table banquets for them, and they came in as a nation. So that's how we see you guys, you know, like we see you guys as nations, but so there, a lot of the indigenous people are surprised, say, wow, they're treating us like dignitaries coming from the US or the France or something. We treat it the same, because that's how we view these are nations, you know. So how can we translate that into a partnership or alliance, a federation that's strong? Because we already believe that. Now we have to just unify. We and the indigenous already believed. I mean, Asians already believe. Indigenous already believe that. And how can we come together to solidify that strength? You know, because it would be there's a distance, geographic distance that keep us apart. But with virtual technology and everything, you know, we can do it now through media, through videos, through Skype. I mean, through WhatsApp. It's free. You know, we can talk to each other, right? So I think that is to bring those people together. The time is now. Before we didn't have the technology. If we just had in 2000 we wanted to do that, we're probably not possible because physically we cannot be in everyone together. But now it's not like that anymore. What do you think about that?
Well, you know, when it comes to historically, we are the reminders of America's atrocities. So that's where the invisibility comes in. We're the reminder of their broken promises. So that's where the invisibility comes in. And the continued celebrations aren't ours. And so as soon as we get woke, we're woke at different levels in different areas. And we're not consistent in the protocols either. We've been in fight or flight mode. And so trying to be an entrepreneur on the res, you know, you don't have the option to fail 20, 30 times like you hear everyone else say. You know, and our tribes are moving into these cannabis industries. Now I support the medical part, but I do not support the recreational because I work with the at-risk youth. I work with the young men and the violence against women. So there's different stages that we look at here. Some tribes haven't had homes in 25 years. Our sister tribe, my tribe, has been 6 years. So creating a solution to have opportunities on the res and that are based by policy and grants that you can't do through HUD. So our tribes are getting really policy driven and oriented. And so they're not recognizing that they're inherent sovereign thinking. They're more of a delegated sovereign thinking. So they ask for permission first. And that's the example I give, you know, when it came to flying drones, is I shared with the FAA when they asked me to stop flying. I says, you know, I can't delegate the sovereignty of airspace. The tribe owns their airspace. It was, oh, Myron. That's, you know, we don't really act, that's not accurate. I says, well, I can set up a consultation with the tribe and you can meet with them. Free and prior consent. You know, I just reversed the role. They had a no-fly zone over tribal land. They didn't go through the tribe. We need to be able to test these boundaries of inherent rights. I'm from one nation supporting another nation, protecting their water. Comes to find out, the FAA had no jurisdiction over the airspace. They took down the TFR, the no-fly zone. We have to exercise our inherent right: clean water, clean air, clean food, peace of mind. Unfortunately, we have unhealthy people pushing healthy people out of these places that need healthy people in there. And that is the strategy of being in the fight or flight mode of conquer and divide. We've learned how to oppress our own people. And it's really hard to have that unity that you're talking about if you have somebody that's indoctrinated that doesn't have those same core values as a traditional person in there that says, well, we got to separate the prayer from the politics, you know. And they're like, well, why are you in here? This is all politics. So there's a lack of teachings. So my goal, you know, in my own home, is to try to create a space where in time I'm hoping in the next few years that I'll have this COVID will go down. We call it pogona because it's historically already been here. It's a coughing sickness. Is to create a space like that, to bring back fish in my own area. So maybe we can harvest that to our elders and just create the solutions to the problems that I see. And everything that I put into it, I don't want to say what I heard a lot of elders that I interviewed say. I wish when I was your age, this is what I would have done. And as long as I have those support of elders, support of our community, so, and teaching the young people and doing it in a good way, then hopefully I get to leave something for the next generation just to pick up and go with. But right now we're struggling with that because this solidarity is not coming from the military. It's not coming from the state. It's not coming from the feds. And that's the hardest part. But I'm meeting very amazing people that want healing in their family, and they know that their business and legacy is built off of land theft. Because their younger people are saying, where do we get this wealth? Where do we get this land? I'm hearing Myron talk about land theft in Oklahoma. Did we get ours through the Sooners? They're being educated. And he's saying you can heal our family by giving back the land, but also you can keep some for you because we're in a generation now where we are sharing. And I've met people that gave land back to tribes. I've met people that gave land back to individual people to help them in their missions. And there is support out there, but also we need to be ready to get that support to our community, because I share this with everybody. Not everyone's going to be understanding to allies like I am. Probably 10 years I couldn't hold space. And I can clearly say, because they were colonizing my circle. I can understand that now. They were colonizing my sacred circle, my sacred fire, and I couldn't articulate it. Now I can, and now I have the patience to say, hey, you're colonizing this space. This is where we pray. Be gentle, kind and gentle. And sometimes it does get old having to re-educate over and over and over. But allies need to hold that space. They need to hold that trauma. They need to relinquish their power when it comes to sharing and gift it. They also need to understand that their ancestors did the same thing. And we had allies back then, just like at Standing Rock. So those are the teachings, is once we get allies in that space and say, you know what, allow them to pray the way they choose, eat inherently the way they choose, and protect the sacred the way they've always done time immemorial. That's how we start the solidarity and they unify together, but also recognize that they're going to colonize our space when they come in, because they don't have our teachings, and we can't expect them to learn it in 2-3 minutes or 1 hour. They might get mystical, but I've also seen them colonize our songs and culturally appropriate it. So these songs, that I share with them, I'm like, here's a reason why you can't sing this song. This song was sung during the Trail of Tears when the women were being raped. You don't know what medicine you're taking. You don't know what trauma you're carrying. So you want to recreate what we're doing, but you don't have any protocols in doing it. And these songs carry the energy of our ancestors. And so we're in constant 101, and I keep getting put in that circle. And so I'm like, all right, I finally accepted it. And I'm gonna give kind and gentle way those harsh teachings, the hatchet, then the honey.
Yeah, and I think you're right on, and it was, right, the exhaustion of having to re-explain, but the fact that their ear is there, and sometimes they say what imitation is the best compliment. I'm saying the saying wrong, but it's almost like,
The best form of flattery, they call it.
the best form of flattery is imitation, right? So
We don't think so.
right. So so it's like yes, thank you for having the patience, Myron, to do what you do, because it is important, and they and recognizing that, and that in the end, though, they do want to listen. So if they stick around and try to walk in a good way and be respectful, and that's just going to trickle on with the unity and the education that needs to happen. So I guess that's what I'm trying to get out of my mouth that got all mangled.
Oh, it goes in different ways. I've experienced the white privilege where an ally had said, hey, I didn't do those things. Why are you attacking me? And I'm like, I'm not attacking you. It's your white guilt that's coming forward. And you're feeling like you're being attacked because those things did happen. I'm sharing with you. I'm educating you. I'm recolonizing you, so to speak. The other part is I have to relive this trauma every time I have to explain it to you. While you say, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and I feel like that's I don't feel like you are, because you don't know other way to act, and so I am getting re-traumatized every time I explain these atrocities and murders and types of genocide and intellectual manipulation and how it's affected my people, and my family have died from this, and children are committing suicide, and you don't have that compassion and empathy because you never went through it. So I also don't want the white savior mentality, and you coming in and thinking you're gonna be Kevin Costner and become the better Indian and save us all, or like in those Hollywood movies, Tom Cruise becomes the better samurai, and goes and saves everybody. This is that white savior mentality. I can articulate it now because this is what we've been going through for a long time, because our children watch that. And so we have to hold that space and then smudge off afterwards and just ask for help, because there's times where I've cried by myself and thought, dang, there's no empathy, and I'm sharing it to a group of people. So, and I don't want to project, and I'm not the victim, but I can sure share how my people were victimized tactically through a battle rhythm by militarization to get land theft, and explaining kill the Indian to save the man was a real policy. The tactics used to indoctrinate and hurt our people. And I'm the last generation of boarding school in my family, so I'm a witness. So those are the things. And I also say, when I'm done, like, again, we're in a fight or flight mode, and not everybody is in this same state I am, understanding that's willing to go to this process with you. So the next Paiute guy, my brother, he may not at all let you have that carry that conversation. And you got to recognize that we're all healing in our own level. That's where the struggle and unity is going to be, because not everyone uses the healing part. They use that anger to fuel them to keep pushing. And you'll see it in communities you go into. Some have the healing and welcome you into ceremony, but they got some protocols. Hang your problems on that piece of nail before you walk in, or on that gate. They give you some protocols before you go in, so you don't carry your trauma in. And then you're feeding your spirit. Your spirit listens when you don't listen, and then you can come in and understand. So that's my strategy. I think also with talking with the mercenaries in Morton County, and anybody who watched, if you watch some of those live feeds when I was say good morning, FBI, CIA, National Guard, Homeland Security, Border Patrol, Sheriff's Association, I was talking to their spirit. Tiger Swan, Late Security, all the DAPL security. I was talking to their spirit, because we are in a level of technology where that was being watched all over the world and throughout the United States. Don't make no mistake. Their shareholders were watching that. Their investors were watching that. Their security was watching it in different places, because they were so worried about their investment that they're watching all of their investment. And so we're talking to their spirit, and we're going to have to continue to do that, because they're not listening, but their spirit is listening.
Very well said, Myron. And is that Mesfin that joined us? Oh no, I thought Mesfin hopped on. I guess he didn't. I thought Mesfin hopped on for a second. I was like, wow. Oh, see, Mesfin's here with us in spirit, talking about spirits. I thought so. Oh my goodness. Well, I've really enjoyed this time with you, and want to continue collaborating and on this walk, on this walk for humanity. So as a whole. And David, did you want to say anything before we close out?
I was just saying, Red Fawn was correct when she said that, God bless that she's out. There's some other political prisoners still not released yet, still in jail, with Indigenous political prisoners, not only in the United States, but all over the world. We send our prayers to them also, to have strength to be able to endure that and to stay strong. Another thing I just wanted to say is that the prayer is with the youth. Red Fawn was saying, and I totally agree, was what brought everyone together, including Sherry and myself, at Standing Rock. That prayer carried on till this day, and that's why we're talking here today, Myron. Because that prayer never stopped, and that's why we bring the 1,000 nations together. Is that because that prayer that's planted the seed to bring the unification of nations worldwide. Is not going to be easy, but we are walking in that prayer, and we're just continuing in it, and that's what I have to say.
Okay. Well, blessings to you all. So many blessings. Thank you so much for your time, for your prayer, Myron, for your heart, for all of the above. Thank you so much. And David, much love to you. And of course, we're thinking and our thoughts are going out to Mesfin as well. So much love to you all. And I guess we can go ahead and conclude. So until we meet again.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching, everyone.
Yes.
Please continue watching us. Myron, just one last thing. How can people support you? Because the amazing work you do, can you webpage where people make a donation to you who's watching or anyone can supporting your work?
Yeah, on Digital Smoke Signals, there's a PayPal. And what we've been currently doing, which all these boxes are here, is in my own community before the COVID hit, is we were crowdsourcing masks and PPE. And so there's solutions that we're doing, also using grassroots communication and to avoid the bureaucracy, of trying to get those things to our community and just trying to support technically. And so that's what it's used, R&D for those that are on the ground. How do we connect? And so on digitalsmokesignals.com, you can sign up, and also on Digital Smoke Signals on Facebook. And we just continue to educate as much as possible. But like this space, the solution is for us to go and be in part of the prayer, like Osheti Shikowan, like Sacred Stone, like all the camps that were there, is open that space and we'll come. Feed us and we'll come. Create that sacred fire, we'll come. That's how we'll get over to the United Nations. If you have a space large enough for us to come, our people will come.
Hey.
It's actually, yes, just wanted to clarify. So there is two, so we created 18 goals that supports Indigenous people. One is 7 permanent seats at the United Nations General Assembly. The second is the support of the creation of a sovereign independent Federation of Nations called Free Nations of the 1,000 nations. That's sovereign and independent from the UN, but we'll be working with them. So
David,
there are 2 things.
You said it backwards. Just got to jump in. The second one's first, then the 7 seats at the UN second.
Okay.
Okay. Our own assembly and our 1,000 Indigenous nations coming together, and that's cool.
It's a reunion actually, because we had always traded with each other across seas and everything. It's just that we have forgotten. We're always united. It's just a reunion.
So, yes. So anyway, just had to say that. Sorry.
Yeah. But I appreciate your guys' support. I want to send some prayers out to our relatives that are hurting, and during these times, and also as we go up, coming close near Backwater Bridge in a few days, and all the water protectors that got injured during that time. Over 350 water protectors were injured. 150 are documented, and a lot of those relatives did not want to come forward because they did not want to give Morton County. They said that we don't want to give them the pleasure knowing that we were hurt. So they felt they I don't know. I felt like they took that and they stood in front, and some of those people I saw, those water protectors, had whole bruises all over their body where they stood and allowed themselves to be hit. And I cried when I was flying because I felt so helpless I felt like there was nothing I could do, and I felt really obligated, no matter what had happened to me. And I was fortunate, I had a bulletproof vest on when I was down there, so I was at the front line documenting as well as upon flying. But send prayers out to all our relatives that are going through that time. This time is hard for them. And we've also lost water protectors in the process of just them going on to the spirit world. So we'll send them on their journey in a good way, send blessings that way. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that prayer. And please keep on supporting water protectors from around the world, and also to support digital smoke signals, what Myron Dewey is doing, and all the other water protectors. Myron said that, that only had told me, and I wasn't really aware, that, water protectors are not receiving any income, because a lot of times they're giving up their jobs to be on the front lines, and they do need the financial support to be able to continue to protect Mother Earth and our drinking water and fresh water. And please keep on supporting them. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.